I was just sitting there thinking about, there are a few of us here, sisters in this group, that for years ago, 20 years ago, took a ropes course. And I don't know if many of you have ever done that. But when it came my time, does everyone know what a trust fall is? When you fall back into the arms of 8 people who are holding their arms out like that. Well, the first time that I did that, I tried my darndest to get back to that tree. And I hope I didn't hurt anybody going down, but I was told that I had to do it again because I had trust issues about falling into somebody's arms. And so that is not really what I want to talk about this morning, but there is a surrender that takes place when I come up and share with you what's in my heart. And so it resembles some days like me trying to get back to that tree, and other days when I can willingly, lovingly fall into the arms of my beloved's wing. When Moses went into the mountain and talked to the burning bush, he asked what God's name was, and God said that I am. God did not say, I was, I will be, I should have been, I could be, or I wish I was. When we're talking about I am, it comes from the word to be, and obviously it's present tense. That's where our power lies. That's where our being is totally in the present. And I know that we talk an awful lot about being present, staying in the now, but the problem is that we are so caught up in the delusion of the physical world has real meaning. And I want to talk about the metaphysical trinity today, and how when we treat for things or pray for things for the little me, meaning our ego me, why that doesn't work, why a lot of times we're disappointed, the things that we are hoping to manifest does not come to pass. And I want to talk a little bit about why that is. So in the Trinity, in the Metaphysical Dictionary, it says that instead of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, it is thinker, thought, and action. Or it is also spirit, which is the I am, soul, which is I am conscious, and body, meaning to appear, the manifestation. And in religious science, we're taught to believe that our thoughts have power. But sometimes our treatments don't quite turn out like we would like to. In Matthew 6:8, it states that your Father knoweth the things that you need of before ye ask. And a couple of weeks ago, when I was looking at my week, and I thought my week was pretty quiet. And when I got to the end of the week and realized that I only managed to be able to work one day that week, I realized that my Father knew what I needed before I asked. And it worked out okay. So our physical life is full of holes in the road. We're full of worries, fears, reversals, stress, and heartbreak. So why do you think that's so? And do you think that there is such a thing as God and? A lot of times when we're thinking about the physical life and our lives, the little life, if you will, oftentimes we think about the and, but there really isn't an and. And I think that it takes constant diligence and discipline for us to constantly be in the frame of mind of that there is nothing else but God. And that's in all of the things that we are unattracted to as well. Our political leaders, the things that are going on in the earth, how humans hurt each other, how they hurt the planet, the animals, the whole thing. But what it really comes down to is our misalignment, our misunderstanding of who we are and how we're connected as one. It's like drops of the ocean out there fighting each other because we have different political views. Or we have different spiritual ideals. There is no God and. If you go into a dark room and there is no light, it's just pitch black. How do you know what's in there without the light? That's what it's like for us when we're focused on our physical life, that we are in those rooms without the lights, and we could be standing amidst the greatest treasures that exist in heaven and earth, but without the light, we have no way of understanding what's in that room, do we? Yogananda says in the second coming of Christ that there is no reality inharmonious that is brought about by man. They are simply a wrong relation of the things brought by ignorance and false, limited concepts of God's creation. Only that which is created is real, enduring and abiding. If the untrue were real, it could not be changed. Only spiritual things are eternal and real. So that must be the physical is not real, not really. That it's a delusion. He talks about, that's why all the money and stuff that money will buy does not bring us happiness. And that's why accumulation, for example, the garden, why we work so hard out there and the deer or the hailstorm or an early freeze or whatever takes away our work, because that is to point back to us what is real. The garden, the physical life does not have reality, and that's not where you're going to find your sustenance, your nurturing, what feeds your soul, what helps you find balance and peace and wholeness is in God, not in the physical. And we get drawn into it, into the drama, into the illusion, just like if we get caught up in a movie, we're crying our socks off because of something that happened, and yet when the movie's off, we get up and we go back in the back room or whatever, because the movie is moving emotionally as it really was just a film after all. So even the things that our society tells us that are successful. There's a story that Eckhart Tolle tells about Nicole Kidman winning an Oscar, and for we all know that for actors and actresses, that their highest accolade, their highest achievement is an Oscar. And she found herself sitting in her hotel room after the Oscar award ceremony, sitting there looking at a beautiful golden statue, and I've been privileged to hold one and feel the weight of it and all that. And she says, what else is there? In our material world, our successes even bring envy from others. But that's not personal. That's about their delusion, getting caught up in physical stuff. Yogananda says Jesus was also trying to heal the delusions of his disciples. And it is an ongoing process because it's only one knot at a time. And that's why it takes my whole lifetime has gotten me to stumbling into those holes, those heartbreaks, those fears, those worries, because I had to have those experiences in order for me to realize that what really sustained me, what really made me feel peaceful, was to, as Eckhart Tolle says, to shrug it off and be present in the moment. This morning I had just a moment of meditation, if you will. I have been taking care of 4 foster kittens the last 4 weeks, and it's about time for them to go to their forever home. But I was thinking that they were jumping and bouncing and sliding down my pad that I was riding on, and purring and trying to get under my chin, and all that stuff. And I looked at them and I said, this is God in action. These little guys are forms of God reminding me of who I am, because when they're doing that, of course, I don't know about you, but I'm fully present, because it's such a special treat to have these little tiny guys loving on me for that moment or two, and then they jump off the bed and they run down the hall and all that stuff. It's just so very precious. But that's God in form. And oftentimes we get so caught up with our ego mind, the little me, about the what ifs, what's coming in the future, what happened in the past that I regret, that we really truly forget to smell the coffee. We don't stop to see the hummingbirds feeding at our feet, or watching them pollinate our plants. All of these amazing, sacred things that point to God in our lives every moment of every day. Yogananda says we cannot appease the hunger of the soul by satisfying the desires of the body. Our souls are always hungering for nourishment of the spiritual kind, security, love, peace, and wholeness. Physical satisfaction is short-lived and always carries not enough with it. For me and my now, I know that my desires are only found in ways of service and in connecting with Source. My greatest joy is my intimacy sitting with a friend discussing a problem, and this beautiful information comes through in the interaction, and I feel so very connected to them. And they always, many times people have said, they said, you know, Jenny, when I leave you, I always feel better. And I do too, you know, because we shared a connection, we shared wholeness with each other in those few brief moments of what was our now in that moment. My joy comes from seeing and feeling the sacred life given to me by my beloved Source and my connection through my heart and spirit to all things. What brings me pain is ego stuff, being pulled into the past or the future with whisperings of if I could only. But at my age, I'm trying to untie those knots thanks to religious science and all things spiritual. Because when I get my eyes off my spiritual and I'm in deep appreciation and gratitude for my present moment, I'm at peace. In my beloved Father's arms, all of my needs are provided for. I heard something, I already did that. Yogananda says that when Westerners get up, their first thoughts are about coffee and breakfast. And when Indians get up, their first drink in the morning is of gratitude to God for how they can appreciate spirit and serve spirit in their daily goings on. And at night, their last thought is of God and gratitude for all that they have. I have to say that when I focus on God first thing in the morning, my day is so wonderful. Even if things happen, I can just shrug it off and say, okay, call AAA or whatever needs to be done. And just be grateful that I was in a spot where AAA could find me. You know, I had phone service. There's many things you can be grateful for in an apparent negative situation. And when I go to peace, when I say gratitude, actually I try to find gratitude all through the day, every single day. Whether I look for God in the kittens or in being able to serve my clients or being able to send a moving pet reading to someone who's concerned about what's going on with their pets, or any of a million things. I get to be whole and one with this planet as I discovered that within myself. And so that brings me to the part that I have felt so close to home but never actually read any of the Master's treatments on this. But Yogananda says that he who has reformed himself has reformed thousands. For what we put into the ether, by the vibrations of our thought and character, others shall also reap. And that's why it is so important for us to take responsibility for our thoughts and actions, and why the world is such a scary place. We're looking at the majority of the people's consciousness on the planet at the moment. And if you can understand, like Jesus said on the cross, you know, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. How important it is for us to take responsibility for the thoughts that are going through our head, for us not getting caught up in the drama of someone else's lack of consciousness. When you can take your own power, contribute your thinking into the mix, and we can shift this planet into a better place to be. In conclusion,